obviously we have to treat those vineyards well. And in the end, it's our goal to whatever we take out, give back and preserve whatever we have for the next generations to come. And has been guiding our estate really for generations. And so also in my generations.
I'm Wendy Holloway, and this is Flavor of Italy, sharing the very best of Italian food and wine, lifestyle, and culture. This is Wendy with Flavor of Italy, and today we're heading to one of Italy's most fascinating wine regions, Alto Adige, where Italian and Austrian influences work together at the foothills of the Alps. And my guest is Karoline Walch. And
hello, everyone.
She is the fifth generation proprietor of the renowned Elena Walch estate. And it's one of Alto Adige's most respected wineries. One of the things I particularly love about it is that it's all women owned and run, which is Karoline and her sister Julia and her mom Elena. And I found out about her wine at a restaurant that we've talked about that at Garibaldi. And there's a woman who guides me with wines and says, you will love this wine. And I tasted it and I did love it, so much so that I came home and I ordered a case of the wine. And I've been exploring it ever since and enjoying it. Karoline, you, unlike a lot of people in wine, pursued an international education before returning to the family estate. Tell us a little bit about that, because you have a business degree from the University of Graz and a master's in wine from the University of Adelaide, WSET diploma.
And, yeah, you know it all.
Lots of different things before you came back to being in the winery. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I have to say, I was born in Alto Adige and I grew up at the estate. Literally, my bedroom was above the barrel hall. And whenever I woke up in the morning, I would open the windows and I was just immersed or surrounded by the winery, the wines, the people, and grapes. And so I always say somehow I feel I have it in the DNA that wine was my world. And when growing up on an estate, you see so many things and there's always talk about wine. And even with my mother, right, she was doing so many things. And as a kid, I would just join her and help her. And so I knew exactly what she was doing and what it meant running an estate, right?
Yeah.
And I have to say, from an early stage on, I knew that this was my world as well. And that at some point in my life, I wanted to do that same thing. So as you said, I first studied business in Austria. And then I did some internships and worked for Mercedes-Benz in their product controlling area. So something totally different, just to get an experience of very large corporations as well. But then as I said, I always knew I wanted to end up at some point again in our small little village of Tramin. But before coming home, I obviously wanted to get that more technical education as well. And I went all the way to Australia. Where I got my master's degree in wine business. That kind of is a degree that combines the business and the enology side, right? And it was a beautiful experience because I've met so many people from around the world, and they were all coming there to get that same education, right? And they came from different backgrounds, but some from similar backgrounds, meaning they were also having family estates in the US, in Canada, or in other parts of the world. So it was a beautiful exchange with people from really all over the world, South America, a lot of people from Chile, Argentina as well. It was just beautiful. And I lived there for 2 years, did some working experience as well at other wineries. And then at some point decided to come back. So it's been since 2013 that I'm back at the estate, at my family estate. And as you said, I'm now running the estate with my sister in the fifth generation.
Yeah, the two of you. But your mom, Elena, she didn't grow up like you in winery. No. That wasn't her thing at all. No. Her trajectory and how it all came about for Elena. Your mom.
So my mom, exactly, Elena, she was born and raised in Milan. So she grew up, and like me, she grew up in a big city, right, in Milan. And but she always had the connection with Alto Adige because her parents were originally from Alto Adige. So there, she always had she knew Alto Adige, but
They
really they grew
had
up in Milan.
that
Yeah.
geographical connection, sure. Yeah.
They did. She did. And then it was really when she met my father and they got married that she moved to Alto Adige. And all of a sudden moved to this from Milan to this tiny little village of Tramin. We have 3,000 people living here. So it's really tiny. And she was actually an architect. So she was born and raised in the city of Milan, and then marriage made her move to Alto Adige. And I always say I feel like she realized that there was nothing else but vineyards surrounding her, right? And hence she always had the passion for wine and the love for wine. And we're talking about the early 80s when not only Alto Adige, but most of the wine, a lot of the wine growing regions were mainly focusing on the quality when it comes to wine and to grapes. And so she was the one who said, we have these stunning, beautiful estates like the Vigna Castel Ringberg or Vigna Kastelaz. We need to change, we need to make wines that are a true signature of that single parcel of that special site. And we need to make wines that are a true reflection of that. And show the world the true potential of Alto Adige. So she had a vision for our estate and she had a vision for Alto Adige to place Alto Adige at the very top and get people internationally get the awareness internationally. And so she somehow convinced my dad to give her his major sites to try out new things. So she changed a lot of things in the vineyards and in the winemaking. And then in 1988, the year that I was actually born, she also started officially with her own wines as Elena Walch. And then, the project really took off. And then she started buying more and more vineyards. And she traveled the world and showed the world what Alto Adige would taste like. And so she's nowadays, certainly we can consider her as a kind of a pioneer in the high quality revolution that our region went through, because she was the one who really had a vision for Alto Adige, for this small wine growing region within Italy. We're one of the smallest wine growing regions within Italy.
You have 90 hectares?
Yes. In and around the towns of Tramin for the most part, right? So it's really, for those of you who have never visited Alto Adige, have you ever been, Wendy? Have you been to our area?
I have not.
Ah, see, there's an invitation right there
Oh, I will
because
be there. Count. Yeah.
because it's a beautiful small region. It's small, right? So we contribute to less than 1% to the total Italian wine production. So it's very small, but nowadays very well known for the very high quality of wines that we produce. And one thing that people should know about Alto Adige is that it's this region that used to be part of Austria up until World War One, and then the borders changed, and then we became part of Italy. So up until today, if you ever come and visit, you still see the influence of kind of both cultures, right? Of the Austrian and the Italian. And even when you listen to me, you probably think that I don't really have an Italian accent when I speak English. And that's true because my first language still is German, right? So this makes us quite unique. And also food wise, it's
So do
very
you speak
interesting.
German at home?
Yeah, we speak a sort of dialect, German dialect, yes. But we grew up bilingual, right? So we speak German and Italian and German. So we switch around all the times.
And you
And I always
do
say
well with
we
English as
tend to
well.
wear, say it again.
You do pretty well with English as well.
Thank you. But I always say we tend to wear different hats depending on the occasion. So sometimes we can be very Germanic, Austrian, very much on time and very serious when it comes to work. But then when it comes to lifestyle and the way we talk and the way we dress, we're very Italian. So it's a nice blend and a nice mixture that you get in Alto Adige that you see, as I said, in so many things. You see it in the two cultures, in people, in architecture, in food, right? So we have traditional local food like bread dumplings and all the heavier, richer dishes, but at the same time, where it's very Mediterranean, the cuisine as well. And you see it also by looking at the nature. You'll be surprised that even though we're the northernmost wine growing region in Italy, right? We're bordering to Austria and Switzerland. We're at the foothills of the Dolomites, the Alps. We are, fun enough, also amongst the hottest summertime places in Italy. So if you ever come here in summertime, you'll be surprised by how warm and how hot it actually gets. Because we're surrounded by the Dolomites, and hence it really heats up like in a basin during the day. Whereas at night, we get those cold falling winds down from the mountains, and hence we see huge temperature fluctuations between day and night. And this is great, obviously, for vines and for the grapes to grow, because we're able to retain always this freshness and acidity. So if you ever come and visit, I always say I'm the biggest fan of Alto Adige because I love my region so much, and I think it's fascinating and it's beautiful because on the one hand side you're so far north, you're in the middle of the Alps, but on the other hand, we have cypress trees, we have palm trees. It's very Mediterranean at the same time as well, especially in the southern parts of Alto Adige where we are.
Yeah.
So it's quite a unique and quite a beautiful area, I have to say. And also weather-wise, we're lucky to have a lot of sunshine and then snow again in the winter. So it's I love the contrast and all of that you find that in Alto Adige.
So I see you have one of your wine bottles right in front of you. Tell us about the one you're holding.
Yes. So when you called and you said, let's do this chat, I was like, which wine should I show? So I chose this wine that I personally love a lot and that I think shows our estate quite well as too. And it's our Pinot Grigio single vineyard Vigna Castel Ringberg. So it's a Pinot Grigio, which is a variety that most people would know, but it comes from a single vineyard. It has the denomination of Vigna on the label, a little bit.
Mhm.
And Vigna means vineyard. So if you have Vigna on a label, you have to guarantee that the wine comes 100% exclusively from one single site. And this is a historic site, the Vigna Castel Ringberg. It has been owned by our family for over 150 years almost. And it's a historic site, and it used to be one of the very few. Actually, it used to be the first officially approved single vineyard in within the Pinot Grigio category, right? So it's quite an important wine for us and an important Pinot Grigio within that category. And Vigna Castel Ringberg is this beautiful vineyard of nowadays 20 hectares overlooking the lake of Caldaro. And this is really the most historic and vine growing area within the Alto Adige region. So it's really in the heart of the Alto Adige vine growing region, overlooking this beautiful, gorgeous small lake. I always call it a more Mediterranean vineyard because obviously we have the lake influence. So the lake releases some heat at nighttime. So there are always temperature fluctuations because we are in the Alto Adige region, but they might not be as strong as on some of our other sites. And soil wise, it's also interesting because it's an intersection of several small soils. And so we have mainly calcareous soils, moranic soils, and also some pebbly stones from the Adige River. And a small part of this wine is being matured in French barrels, large and small ones, so about 40%, and the rest is stainless steel, and then we blend it back together. So it's really a beautiful Pinot Grigio, very high-end Pinot Grigio, as I said, single vineyard, so it comes only and exclusively from the single vineyard of Vigna Castel Ringberg.
Okay. Tell us about a few other wines, just so people get a
Yeah.
kind of a.
Another wine that we're very proud of, and it's certainly the variety called Gewürztraminer. And as you might know, we're in the town of Tramin, and Gewürztraminer means the spicy grape of the town of Tramin. And hence it's really the birthplace of the variety, and it's a variety that we have been planting here for a long time. And we call it the birthplace of the variety in a way. And so we have a long tradition in producing and making Gewürztraminer, a dry Gewürztraminer, right? So it's really, you get all the aromatics, but it finishes dry. So it's a beautiful wine that you can pair with lots of different dishes. And it's not a dessert wine. It's really a wine that it finishes dry. The acidity cuts right through and leaves you with this beautiful, refreshing finish. And we do several different Gewürztraminers just because it's one of our major varieties. And the most iconic Gewürztraminer that we produce comes from the single vineyard of Vigna Kastelaz, which is this very steep vineyard overlooking the town of Tramin. So it's really a unique site. And it's unique because it's literally like a pyramid overlooking the town of Tramin, twisted around. Because generally speaking, the vineyards in the Alto Adige region follow the valley and hence have a southeast or southwesterly exposure. But in this case, it's like a pyramid twisted around 100% south facing, which I said is fairly rare. So you get all the sunlight, a lot of sunshine during the day, but we are close enough to the mountains, so we're influenced by two strong winds. One is a wind that comes from Lake Garda, this Aura wind that brings very dry wind, so it dries out the vineyards a lot. And then as soon as the sun goes down, we get the cold falling winds down from these huge mountains, and hence huge temperature fluctuations. And another thing unique of Kastelaz is the steepness. So we're talking about 63% in steepness, making it obviously very challenging for us to work those vineyards and those vines, but making it a stunning place to be growing vines, obviously with very low yield and a great concentration. So that's, I would say, Vigna Kastelaz and Vigna Castel Ringberg, those are our two most iconic sites that we own. And both of those sites are only and exclusively owned by our estate and our family. So it's really a monopole, like the French would call.
Do you follow mostly the wine production and your sister Julia, another aspect of the winery?
Yeah, as a family estate, you always have to do a lot of, you have to be flexible, right?
Yeah.
And you do a lot of different things. But overall, with the running of the estate, we do that together. And then sales wise, it's divided. So everyone looks after different sales. And so it's not so easy to say she does this. So it's a lot of the things we do together. She's more on the marketing side, and then I'm more overseeing together with the winemaker and the agronomist the production side. But really, the running of the estate, we do that together. I think that's the most fun part.
Now, I know that sustainability is very important for you and it's a long term commitment for your company.
Yeah, and I always say as a family estate, it's obvious that you think long term. And as my ancestor or my dad really taught us very well right when we started, that you're lucky that you can work with those unique sites, right? And have inherited all these gorgeous sites that nowadays honestly would be impossible to purchase. Obviously, we have to treat those vineyards well, and in the end it's our goal to whatever we take out give back and preserve whatever we have for the next generations to come. And has been guiding our estate really for generations, and so also in my generations, my sister and myself, we've continued that path even in a more precise way, in such that we then applied also for a sustainable certification called Viva, which is an national Italian certification. And we always feel like to be sustainable, you have to look at all different aspects. It's the agriculture, the production side, but it's also the kind of commercial and social side of it as well. And we do meetings several times throughout the year, and to always think of where can we improve, how can we become an even better company, right? And I always say sustainability is something that you can never say, okay, done, now I'm sustainable, that's it. But it's in constant evolution. And every year we try to add other things and other new things to become even better, right? And so obviously when looking at the sustainable side in agriculture and in viticulture, the idea is to go away from the monoculture viticulture, increase biodiversity in both flora and fauna. There are a lot of things that we do. We plant leguminoses to increase mineralization, and like cereals and corn or senape. We have weather monitoring systems that tell us the exact conditions of our vineyards in a certain moment. We do our own compost, meaning that it takes almost a year to do your compost, that is to dry that out, and then that is being used in all of our vineyards. And only last year we've added some, we call them in hotels for insects. So we have those small houses for insects to increase always the biodiversity. Or we, for example, we don't cut our grass, but we leave it long and then just bend it down again. That protects the earth
Huh,
from drying out, but at the
interesting.
same time,
Yeah.
it gives a habitat to other insects and smaller insects. And so a lot of the things that we do, and for example, in the cellar, we have about 60% of the production that is nowadays covered with solar panels, with photovoltaic, so solar panels. What else? Yeah, and in commercial side, obviously, we look at bottle weight, for example, right? And a couple of years ago, we've done an external CO2 balance sheet. And obviously, the result was that over 50% of the CO2 emissions from our estate comes obviously from bottles. So that's not surprising. So the bottle weight. So over the years, we've tried to find bottles that are still premium looking, but lighter in weight. And we've gradually reduced the bottle weight. And we're now using for all of the selezione tier, which is the tier that really travels the most. Lighter glass, that we're now below 400 grams, which is making it a lightweight bottle.
So are they more fragile then?
They could, but nowadays technology helps us a lot. So they used to be very fragile. And I remember when we did a lot of research to find the right bottle. But nowadays they're very good, and I would say they're not so fragile as long as you stay on. If you go lower than that, it might cause some issues. But in on around, say, we use 395 grams, so it's perfect. So no, we have not been seeing much breakages, but obviously we were concerned a little bit as well. But nowadays with technology, they're pretty good in producing those
Yeah.
lightweight glasses. Yes.
Now, what about corks?
Yeah, we use mainly, so it depends. So we use on our single vineyard wines, we use natural corks. And then we use the Birondellati corks on the selezione tier, which is TCA guarantee free, TCA free corks. There are still natural corks, but the agglomerate, and then the two Birondellati, the two sides, those are natural corks. So whatever touches the wine is natural cork, but guaranteed TCA free. And then we use on one wine that obviously we do a lot in by the glass, which is used where we use screw cap.
Okay. And I know that you produce some disease resistant peewee grape variety.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We produce a Bronner, and Peewee is a variety. Peewee is a difficult word. Thank God we've agreed on using the abbreviation of
Yeah,
calling them just simply
it's
Peewee,
almost
because they're
unpronounceable.
yeah. I speak German, so I can tell you the real name. It's Pilzwiderstandsresistente Rebsorte, but it's impossible for everyone else who doesn't speak German to
Yeah.
understand it. So thank God we have Peewee as an abbreviation that makes life easier. And it's those varieties, there are several of them, newer varieties that are varieties, and this is what the word means, that are resistant to the various diseases that might happen. And it's a cross between the Vitis vinifera and Vitis asiatica. And what we produce is this Bronner, and Bronner is the name of the variety, like Chardonnay and Pinot Grigio. Bronner is the name of the variety, and it's a white grape variety. It's a very interesting grape variety, and it's a very, I would say, more lighter in style, slightly aromatic, but not too much. So to me, it goes into a direction of a Pinot Bianco with Müller-Thurgau, somehow in that direction. But it's certainly a light wine, a vibrant wine. It's very approachable, easy to drink, and yeah, it's fascinating to explain that wine and the variety. It is a younger variety, right? It's one of those newer, considered new varieties, and it's interesting. I cannot tell you how well the wine ages because we do not have that experience yet, but it's an interesting wine, and that is resistant to any diseases that might exist in vineyards.
Yeah, and it seems to be a trend that's important to combat what we see happening with climate change.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the Peewee varieties are the answer to what is happening now. I think Peewee is interesting. They're giving us interesting wines, but still, I don't know. There are other varieties that obviously where we have much more experience and where that are much more complex varieties in a way. So I think Peewee is interesting. Yes, Peewee you can blend also some varieties, not necessarily the Bronner, but say Solaris and other varieties. You can plant also on higher elevation sites, which is certainly interesting. But I don't think that they will be the future in wine. No, I don't think so. I think they're, in our case, we planted them because it's, as a producer, you always have to think long term, and you always have to experiment with new things and get a feel of what's working, what's not working, what is interesting. And now it's been how many years? It's probably just over 10 years. I think the first vintage was 2014 with Brown that we did.
Hmm.
That challenging vintage, and the results are very positive and interesting. But as I said, I don't think we're gonna expand the production of Peewee. I think we're gonna leave it to this Bronner, and I think it's interesting. And as a producer, as I said, you always have to try out new things. And for us, it falls again in a sustainable aspect where we try out new things as well.
So I'm sure that a lot of listeners are thinking, oh, the Dolomites, Alto Adige, I should go up there and visit.
Oh, they should, yes.
So do you offer any kinds of, let's say, accommodation or experiences within the
Yeah.
winery? Tell us about that.
Yeah, we do a lot of, as we call it in Italian, enoturismo, but we do a lot of, yes, we offer a lot of things. So we have Intramin, where the winery is, where the historic winery is. We offer cellar tours, beautiful cellar tours, because when you come to Elena Walch, you will see the very historic part where we still have some beautiful hand-carved barrels that date back to
Mm.
1869, and they're all being used still. And they really tell the story of my family, of my ancestors, and of the region overall. They're all hand carved, gorgeous to see. And then, obviously, the state we're always open to new things as well, and hence we'll end up what they will see is also a beautiful fermentation cellar, very new, very modern, and where we use only gravity. So it's a gravity-driven fermentation cellar. So it's beautiful to visit the cellar. And then we do master classes, tastings. Obviously, we have a tasting room here also in Tramin. And then in Castel Ringberg, which, as I said, is overlook this beautiful Habsburgian castle overlooking the lake of Galdaro, and that is really nestled within our Castel Ringberg vineyard. It's beautiful. And there we have again a small bistro, and again a tasting room, and yeah, exactly where people can come and visit us.
Nice, nice.
But we do not have accommodation. That's something we don't offer. And we do vineyard tours, right? So we do cellar tours in Tramin, and in Castel Ringberg. What people can sign up for is vineyard tours, and they're beautiful, and people really seem to enjoy them a lot. It's about an hour walk through the vineyards where people can enjoy and learn about viticulture and all the work that stays behind a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous. And very often we see that people sign up for the vineyard tour in Castel Ringberg, and then the next day they come to the winery and want to explore the cellar as well. So it's quite unique and quite interesting.
Nice. Now, for our listeners overseas, particularly the United States, we have a lot of listeners, and they're wondering, how can I get this wine? I believe you have a distributor who handles your wine for all of the United States.
Yes, exactly. We have a
About
so-called
that.
Yeah, so our distribution network, we have a national importer called Wilson Daniels, and Wilson Daniels is a national importer, and they distribute our wine. They import the wines and then they distribute them to the various markets through different distributors. So depending on where your listeners are based at, we use different distributors, right? And so we're distributed very widely throughout the states. In almost, actually, we cover all of the United States, all states, and
Impressive. Yeah.
yeah, and we are within, you can find us in either selected stores or higher end restaurants. But if there's somebody who's listening in and really wants to know where do I find my wine in somewhere in, I don't know where, Ohio, then just feel free and reach out and we'll let you know the exact address of who our distributor is and where exactly they can find the
So
wines.
reaching out to you.
Yeah, they could also
Yeah.
reach out directly to us and tell them where exactly to find the wines in the United States. As I said, we're very widely distributed, and yeah, they can find us in several stores or restaurants. Are you all living in Italy?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I've been
nice.
living here for over 40 years.
Oh,
And my daughter was born in 1988, also like you.
oh, like me. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And she has two children, a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. And I
Oh,
heard you say that you have children.
they're a little bit smaller. My oldest one is turning 6 now, and the little one is turning 4 in October. Yeah.
So who knows? Hopefully they'll continue with your
Yeah.
winery.
Who knows, right? And I always have to say, as I've never felt any pressure from my parents. And they always told me, you have to do whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy. And I hope I can transmit the same to my children. We grow up, and as a family, we now grow up in the middle of the vineyards. Actually, we have a beautiful house on top of the Vineyard Kastelaz hill. So they are within the vineyards all the time. And obviously, they understand that that wine and grapes are our thing. They're still small, but they know the work and they know what it means producing wine.
And
And
I
so maybe
it happened with you. It's really in your blood. It's in your soul.
somehow it is, right? There's just so much that you absorb as a child, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah. So is there anything else you would like to share with us before we leave?
I think we covered quite a lot. I think that was a beautiful chat, and we were able to touch so many and talk about so many different topics. I think yeah, what else? No, I think you organized it very well with the right questions, so I don't have anything to add.
I'm so glad to finally be talking to you because I'm very much enamored with your winery.
Oh, beautiful. One day, hopefully from Rome, you come up to Alto Adige. It's really gorgeous to visit and to see. So feel free to reach out. You have my address, so feel free to email me whenever you want. I'd love to have you around here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Caroline.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
Thank you so much. Ciao.
Bye, ciao. This has been Flavor of Italy. Find us on www.flavorofitaly.com and on Substack, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, always as Flavor of Italy.